Let's get it done. I'm already working for this game. What kind of rivalry will this become, Mario? That's the question we'll begin to answer this weekend. Hello, everyone. Welcome to LAFC Plus. Comes at you fast, Mario. Episode 48 here of the podcast. And he is Mario Ruiz. I'm Dave Denholm. We are LAFC Plus. It's a big week. You know, you start a new rivalry, Mario, with San Diego FC, and we'll see how this goes.
Yeah, on paper, Dave, this has everything you need to make that heated rivalry. I think two SoCal teams just 122 miles apart. You got Steve Cherundolo, who's the head coach. He's grew up in San Diego. He fell in love with soccer in San Diego, and San Diego's already beaten the Galaxy, another SoCal rivalry there. But now it's time for LAFC and and San Diego FC to get on the pitch, and they got to do their thing on the pitch. They got to bring the heat. They got to bring the intensity because the hype is already there, but it has to be done on the field as well.
Yeah, and we've seen San Diego FC so far through 5 matches, very respectable, 2 wins and 2 draws. So they're just a point back of LAFC right now in the standings. LAFC currently on 9 points, sitting third. I mean, not that that matters all that much yet. Obviously, everything's bunched up and things change week to week dramatically. But they did suffer their first loss. LAFC coming off a professional win against Sporting Kansas City. San Diego got punched in the nose against Austin. We know how that feels, to be honest. And they had to go to Austin to get that pleasure. We had that happen to us at BMO. What I think, Mario, what I've seen out of Mikey Veras' team so far is they're very aggressive. Yeah. But it's not the chicken with your head cut off expansion team aggressive. They have a purpose for it, right? They play under controlled aggression is how I look at San Diego, which is very impressive because that can get away from you when you're trying to win the ball and have as much of the ball as San Diego wants as an expansion team. If you're not ready for that, that can get real ugly real fast. Now, we'll see what happens against LAFC, a very controlled team as well, very solid defensive team. But so far, so good pretty much for San Diego.
Yeah, I mean, sitting right there in 4th place, just right underneath LAFC, like you just mentioned. And they got that first loss out of the way. So now you can get that out of the way. And that was against a tough Austin, Texas team right there. That team, we saw them the week before that. And we know how good they are going to be down the road. And when it comes to playoff time, I think that Austin team is going to be right there in the mix. They get off to a little bit of a slow start, but that Austin team is going to be for real. So San Diego's really had a tough start to their schedule, actually, but they've handled it very well because they played at the Galaxy to open up. They're playing LAFC now. They just went up against a tough Austin team, so they've had some tough matches. Even the match against St. Louis, which was their home opener, that was a very tough match to open up at home because that St. Louis team has been revamped as well. So that was a tough that was a draw. So they're playing hard with what they got. And they don't have their star, Chucky Lozano, but he has been back at training this week. So we'll see if he'll get some playing time in this one against LAFC.
We also see expansion teams, the stars kind of come from nowhere in a sense, sometimes, of course, LAFC knew Carlos Vela was going to be a star. That was the obvious first signing. But then Diego Rossi was the star as well, just right out of as an 18-year-old. So fitting right in with Carlos. You don't know that before the season starts or how that might happen. For San Diego FC, I think it's Andres Dreyer. He's been very effective up front, very dangerous.
Definitely.
Tverskov, the central mid, defensive central mid. He doesn't like to get forward that much, doesn't really want to. He's been really good in that central mid. I'm going to have to learn his name a little bit better. It's a little trickier to pronounce, but before I broadcast that on Saturday, but very good player. They've got some talent. Do they have enough talent, though, Mario? Again, Chucky getting healthy will help him immensely, of course. But is it the kind of team that you think they're built to last here this season?
Yeah, I think like we've been talking about, they do have a lot of hard workers and guys that are willing to play their hearts out right now. But I don't see enough talented players to really make a long run throughout the season here of this tough, grueling schedule of that is MLS. There are rumors of some top class players maybe coming in the summertime, which would make a huge difference. One or two signings, for an expansion team that could make them legit. And that's all it would take is just a couple more players. But right now, I'm not really too convinced with what they got right now, especially with their star being out.
Now, as that said, we all know they could punch LAFC in the nose on the weekend, right? It's still
Hmm.
they're still in that honeymoon phase where everybody's feeling good. It's just going to be their third home game, so the vibes are still good in terms of everybody still pumped up. They didn't start out 0-5 where everybody's depressed or thinking, "Oh man, this is," they're starting out well, which is always crucial for an expansion team. We know about that. Just to get
Yeah.
that fan base extra kind of motivated and extra bought in as fast as possible. You're going to have the fans there to check it out, right? You're going to have a lot of them coming for the first season
Yeah.
just to see how it is. But you got to perform to really
Gotta keep them.
grab them. Yeah,
Hmm.
and not only keep them, but just even make them more kind of invigorated,
Yeah.
more in, if you will, more of a
Right.
passionate fan
More
base.
passionate.
And so far, so good for that in the sense that they're
Hmm.
playing well.
Yeah.
I'm with you. I don't know if they're going to last over the course of a season because the West is tough. Again, injuries, little things like that. I mean, we see Chuki's, coming off a little bit of an injury. Mikey Veras had said to the media today that he will be on the bench available for this one. So he's certainly making his way back in for
Hmm.
San Diego FC. And again, for them, that's a great thing because he's
Yeah. Oh,
so
yeah.
talented. I certainly would love to see him unavailable for this one. Let's just sit on the bench, watch another game. Chuki, take your time. Don't
Yeah.
rush it. Like just one more match. Just watch from the bench. Okay, if we're up 4-0, you can come in the 85th minute and get a little run out and, or 80th minute. And fine. That's, go ahead and, stretch the legs a little in a game that's already in LAFC's control. That's fine. But other than that, I'd rather not see him certainly in this one because he's going to be fired up. Chucky Lozano
Oh,
does not
yeah.
get cheated out of any minute that he plays. So
And
I'd
Dave, we're
rather
gonna
not
we're
see
gonna
him.
recognize some other faces as well. Former LAFC faces this weekend. Tomas Angel, he's a former black and gold forward who's very good, solid player. Just didn't get many chances for LAFC at his time with the black and gold. He's getting a lot of playing time over there at San Diego FC. He's been a key player for them early on so far, and then also they have Luca Bambino, who is a defender, played it
Yep.
out a lot with LAFC too. A youngster who has a lot of talent as well. He's been getting playing time. So a couple familiar faces out there to look out for the black and gold fans out there.
Yeah, and if you're a football fan, maybe that doesn't follow MLS as much, or you follow more of the European base. Bombino is allowed to play against LAFC. He's on loan from LAFC.
Hmm.
San Diego have an option purchase, but he's on loan right now. He is
Yeah.
still an LAFC player technically, but he's on loan at San Diego. So, but he is, according to MLS rules, he is allowed to play against LAFC. If you loan out a player within MLS, they can play against you in any and all competitions. So if we were to happen to see him I guess they are in Leagues Cup, something like that, he could still, of course, if he's still with them or whatever's going on with the loan, he could still play against us as well then too. So he is available to play against LAFC. That's going to be kind of weird for him, probably. It's certainly motivating, I would imagine, on some level. But he's also
Hmm.
fit in pretty well. Like he's kind of just slid right into that left back spot. Looks pretty good. Still a young player, no doubt. He just wasn't going to get the minutes for LAFC, clearly, as they went out and got Artem Smoliakov. You, of course, have Ryan Hollingshead there. I mean, it's just Luca
And
was
Dave, I
not,
actually talked to Steve Cherundolo today about those familiar faces, about Tomas Angel and Luca Bambino, and we'll
Mhm.
play that interview in a little bit. So he touched on that, the impact of those two players in this game here too. So we'll get to that in a little bit. Just a little
Yeah.
tease there.
I think what's a factor for LAFC, Mario, and a key for that is you can't let the crowd you can't let the day overwhelm you. Not because
Hmm.
LAFC is going to get rattled. I don't mean that. But you can't let San Diego FC jump on you early. Don't get that
Right.
early goal. Don't get the crowd in. You got to take the crowd out of it, take that
Hmm.
energy out of it. Just turn it into just another game in a sense that you grab a 1-0, 2-0 lead and then just kind of wear them out and grind them down, and if you get more goals, great. But you have to kind of take the spark away from a team like San Diego FC where they can't get they're going to be plenty motivated and there's going to be plenty of fire with that team. You can't give them more. You can't give them what they really crave, which is results. You just got to take that from them let's face it, a better team. LAFC is a better team. So but that's not easy. That is the goal, and that is the key.
Has been up for the challenge in every single one of these matches, and even after facing LAFC, who's one of the powerhouses in the Western Conference and all of MLS, really, they got Seattle after this match with LAFC, and then they got to go to the high altitude in Colorado after that. So the schedule's not really getting any easier for San Diego, but they're handling it well, which is a good thing for them. So kind of scary for opponents, but it's a good thing for them.
And one of the things that I'm very surprised, or I didn't think this was going to happen, I don't know why. Snapdragon Stadium is grass. It's not turf. I don't know why I had it in my head. I don't know if it was because, college football is played there, and I just kind of put it on to San Diego State that they had turf, even though they don't. I don't know why I had it all along that it was going to be a turf field, but it's natural grass, which it's a small thing, but it's kind of cool. I mean, you should have natural grass in San Diego. I mean, why wouldn't you, in a sense? But they do have a lot of activities going on at that stadium. I'm so glad it's natural grass there for this, this game. And not only that, just for the league, for everything going forward. Mario, I love the thought of expansion teams. Now, I'm not saying you want to expand to 40 teams. I just mean, I always am interested in what's going on with expansion teams, because there have been plenty over the last 15 years in MLS. I mean, it's been booming, including us, of course. But I'm very intrigued by expansion teams. I really like what I'm seeing out of San Diego. But again, I think they're kind of holding back a little. There's still something out there, like you said. Maybe it's the summer. Maybe it's next season after they kind of get their feet under them. But, and again, Chucky was, we know Tom Penn. We know the kind of playbook they're following here. Carlos Vela was the the signing for LAFC. So they went and got Chucky Lozano, no doubt, and it makes sense. It's a smart move. But I don't know if this is the kind of team that's going to threaten the West with the way they're built. Right. And again, the way they're trying to play now in 5 years, that could really benefit them, the way they're trying to play as an organization, and be, the Right to Dream Academy involved, and how they want to press and keep the ball and move it around and really go after you. In 5 months, it might not be working yet, is my point. Again, they're off to a good start, but we'll have to see. Let's make them pay for that, is my point. Let's just go out and you got to take care of business. Won't be easy. Let's hear what Steve Cherundolo have to say. Mario sat down with him at practice earlier on the day here and got this interview. So let's play that now, Mario.
You grew up in San Diego, a city that you love very well. You fell in love with a beautiful game there. Describe the dynamic of you coaching against San Diego in this one, a city that you love and have a lot of pride in.
As much as it's fun to be back in your hometown and to see family and friends, I have a job to do, and that is to make LAFC a winning organization and to do my part in that, and to give our players, the biggest chance possible to win. And I will do that.
Now, you guys had another full week of training here this week to prepare for San Diego. Last week, you guys had a full week of training, and we saw what happened there in KC. Is that something we should expect when you guys do have a full week of training, a performance like that?
It definitely helps. If you go the first 4 weeks of the season not really being able to train, you get a little dependent on results and form and momentum. And training gives you the opportunity to change form, momentum, and results. And, that's what we saw. And we continue to work on certain things this week that were good, to confirm those and to solidify those. But we've also worked on some deficiencies. And I like where the team is at, physically, mentally, and tactically.
Now I'm thinking about next week's match, a big match against Inter Miami, but it's a Wednesday match. It's a midweek, but it's a Wednesday. Is that far enough to where it doesn't affect your kind of process, your thought process for this lineup for San Diego?
Yeah, we're just starting another busy block. So I think at the start of blocks, you don't have to worry too much about loading, and players will be excited and should be fresh for the first leg. Towards the middle, the end of the block, then you need to start thinking about loading management and health of players. But we're not there yet.
Now the hype is there for this to be another rival of LAFC, a SoCal rivalry. In your eyes, you've been through a lot of derby matches, a lot of rivals. What makes a good rivalry in your eyes?
Well, it takes some intense battles right away first. So it's not just proximity. it's also what those matches look like. And we do expect an intense match. It's a team that's proved difficult to beat in the first phase of the season. It's a team that works very hard and within their tactical boundaries. And so we have certainly our work cut out for us. We'll have to kind of see what happens and see what kind of approach the boys from both sides take against each other, and if it's a game full of respect or if it's a game that can get a little heated. That will shape this game or this series moving forward.
San Diego does have their fair of former LAFC players in Tomas Angel and Bambino. How does that influence the match, you think?
Well, I'm sure it's pretty emotional for those guys. Whether influences the match is kind of up to us and them. But I think going off of past experiences, it shouldn't affect the match too much.
Thanks for the time, Steve. Good luck in this one.
Thank you.
Great stuff there. Love that, Mario. Great stuff from you. I love what he said there. It is up to the players, certainly, but Angel and Bambino, you could tell he knows that it's going to be motivating, no doubt, for those guys to come and play against the team, that obviously you're most recently with. So, well, in Tomas Angel's case, he was on loan, but it was in a different league, of course, USL. So his first time back in MLS playing LAFC. So going to be interesting. And I like what he said about the rivalry. You got to go earn that you got to earn a rivalry on the pitch. It's you can have a rivalry automatically when it's LA versus LA, right? The LA versus Carson, whatever, 11 and a half miles or whatever it is between that's a rivalry right off the jump. Even if the games weren't very good, which they were always crazy. So that helped.
Always.
But when you're talking about San Diego, LA, there's that built-in San Diego, LA thing, or Northern California, you still got to go earn it on the pitch, right? If it's a 5-0 game every time, it doesn't, I agree with that. So what are your thoughts on that, though? How do you feel this rivalry is going to be built, do you think?
Unfortunately for San Diego FC, Cherundolo and the whole LAFC squad has had a full week of training and preparation for this match. Just like last week when LAFC went into KC, we saw what happened there. We saw that performance. So anytime Cherundolo has that chance to study the opponent and execute that game plan, then it usually goes well for LAFC. It kind of seemed like LAFC had their front foot, they're out on the front foot in that last game against KC. It was one of the best 45 minutes that first half for LAFC all season long. So how LAFC come out and ready for this one, we'll see in that first half how it goes. And if LAFC get out to a lead, then that's a sign of good things, because when LAFC get out to a lead and they bunker down and they know how to suffer, right? Because nobody suffers better than LAFC's Cherundolo defense. So they're out in front, they bunker down, they know how to suffer, they hold it down. And then if for a chance you get past that back line of LAFC, well, you have to deal with Hugo Lloris. Hugo Lloris is having another spectacular season, and he's actually won a couple games for LAFC, because LAFC have won a handful of 1-0 victories. So a lot of those victories would not be victories if it wasn't for Hugo Lloris and maybe one or two spectacular saves late in those games. So it's gonna be a good one. It's gonna be a tough one for LAFC, but it's also gonna be a very tough one for San Diego FC to defend their home field.
And this could become a very good rivalry. What I'm about to say, don't misread this, okay? But I've been hearing little rumblings, little things on social media. I think people trying to poke at either LAFC or LA Galaxy, depending on how you fall on that. Like, the San Diego FC rivalry could be bigger than. Stop. It's not ever going to be LA Galaxy versus San Diego, or LA versus San Jose, which is, the Classico's been around for a long time, like great rivalries. LAFC versus Portland or Seattle. There's nothing in MLS like LAFC, LA Galaxy. So let's just put that to rest. I don't care how this match goes on Saturday. San Diego is going to be a great rivalry eventually, no doubt. That is just a Southern California thing. But it can't compare. It won't compare. It never will be. So don't, Galaxy fans trying to, it could be bigger. Our San Diego rivalry is bigger than versus LA. No, stop. You're lying to yourselves. Or you're just trying to troll. It's not possible. It's not going to happen. So let's just put that to rest. Doesn't mean it won't develop into something pretty special, which we're expecting, no doubt. And this is the first of many matches to come, certainly. I'd love to see us, get to a final with San Diego FC in the Leagues Cup or something. That'd be awesome, no question.
That would be
absolutely. Great. Like, heck, let's play him in the playoffs this first year.
Some
no
playoff
doubt.
matches, I was going to say.
Absolutely. I'm the kind of guy who hopes all the Southern California teams make the playoffs, and we're just all battling. Like, that's what you want. You want to beat your rival in the playoffs. We've seen that, how big that is, of course, in the postseason for LAFC and those wins. Yeah, more. Bring me more of that, but let's pump the brakes here, folks, on the, LA versus whatever. It's LAFC, LA Galaxy. That is the MLS rivalry. Don't give me any other ones.
Last week, Aaron Long had that nice goal in Sporting KC, but I like what he said after the game. After the game, he said that they're taking that road warrior mentality here in this long stretch of road games for the LAFC. And that's the mentality, that you want going out on the road. It's not just to go for those draws or maybe scrap a point here and there on this long stretch of road games. Aaron Long is the captain, and he's laying it down. He's saying that, we're going with that road warrior mentality, that attitude, and going for wins. The full 3 points on the road is which I love. Those for some reason, those just count for more, actually, in my opinion. Those road wins are just huge.
Yeah, because you're also stripping a team of a home win, which everybody needs. And frankly, teams at home in MLS are good. Like most of the, it's just like every other league, really. I mean, the home field advantage should be big. If you can get a win on the road, it is massive. I mean, that's what happened at Austin beating us at BMO. I mean, how often do we lose at BMO? It's like a blue moon. So that's huge for them.
Taste in your mouth,
massive for them to get those 3 points, because you're right. It feels bigger than 3 when you get a road win. It just does. It's like 4 points, it just feels different. There's no doubt about that. And that was good. I don't care where Sporting Kansas City is in the standings. I don't care. You go on the road against the worst team in MLS, whether they are or not. I don't know. I'm not saying that. I'm saying if you go on the road against the statistical worst team, if you get 3 points, it's massive. And I don't care how it happens. I don't care what it looks like. Just go. If you can get 3 points on the road against anyone, man, you're just absolutely giddy. Speaking of giddy, Mario, I'm giddy for this Open Cup match. It comes the day before the Inter Miami game at BMO against LAFC in the CONCACAF Champions Cup. It's LAFC 2, drawn in the U.S. Open Cup game next round on Tuesday at Lancaster Municipal Stadium. Wow, that's going to be awesome against Alta AV, who won their first ever match in the earlier round of the Open Cup. They got the victory, so now they get to take on LAFC 2. It's going to be a tough test for the new team up there in Lancaster. I think LAFC 2 is in good shape, though. I think they're the favorites of this one. You still got to go out and do it, but they looked so good in their first game. I think they're going to be ready.
I'm so pumped, Dave, to see these youngsters play again. I got that in my mind. Like, when do they play again? I want to see them again after that show that they put on in the last round of the U.S. Open Cup against Arizona FC. Who wouldn't want to see LAFC 2 play again in their next match? And, it's another chance to see Drew Terry, the youngster, do his thing. A teenager has just such a bright future going ahead, and you just feel like something special is going to happen anytime he has the ball at his feet. And I think the boys are just playing with a lot of pride right now, defending that U.S. Open Cup trophy, which LAFC's first team won last year. So, Junior Gonzalez, their head coach, he just knows that that's a huge motivation for these kids. And I think he's using that, too, to kind of push these kids. Like, we got to defend this trophy and represent the crest of LAFC.
Yeah, and I don't want to make it sound like Alta AV is not going to be a challenge. I think it's going to be a tougher match, to be honest. They are a team that I believe is better than FC Arizona as I see them. So certainly not going to be some kind of cakewalk. You got to go out there and do it. I think LAFC should win. I think the LAFC 2 is the favorite, in my opinion, my humble opinion. But yeah, it's going to be a tough game. You're on the road, too. I mean, you're going to have to go up there. I know it's not a far trip, thankfully. It's not some crazy, like, oh, they got drawn to go play somebody in, like, New York City or something. It's not something nuts like that. But you are going to be in a hostile territory, certainly, with those fans and everything. So it's going to be difficult, but you're right. I think they're going to get it done. I'm looking forward to that, no doubt. Around the rest of MLS, Mario, let's go to the plus side of LAFC plus. So around the rest of the league, some big news. Montreal, first manager. People always talk about there's no pro-rel things. The regular season doesn't matter. There's no stakes. Well, there are for managers who get fired and lose their jobs and now have no job. And that's what happened to Laurent Courtois up in Montreal, which is it's not really a shock that Montreal is getting a new manager. They seem to do that quite a bit, frankly. But Courtois, very well respected, just got off to a very shaky start. Part of it, of course, is they're always on the road to start the season. This year, different 7 straight road games, Mario, before they get a home match. He didn't even make it to a home game. Like the poor guy fired after 5, parting ways with him or whatever they call it. I don't know if the fired is the official word. Like they're parting ways with the manager after only 5 matches. He doesn't even get a home game to start the season. But Mario, my question to you is, could Pep Guardiola win with this club? You know what I mean? Like, is it really Laurent Courtois' fault here?
I mean, even though they started with those 5 straight road matches and still
7,
they still got 2 more left.
You're right. Yeah, sorry.
2 more that they're about to go get into. But I understand that's a tough schedule, but they only got 1 point in those first 5 matches, and they did. They haven't even scored 1 single goal in the last 4 matches. So that's very tough for any fan base, any ownership. 1 goal in the last 4 matches, that's not acceptable. That's not going to fly. But that's also on players too. I mean,
absolutely.
You got to show more effort. You got to show more fight. You got to show a lot more. I mean, that fan base, that ownership expects a lot more from those players, not only the coaches as well.
But my point is they don't have a lot of DP spend. They don't bring in a lot of designated players. They have had big names in the past, in fairness. This ownership group has done that. And, they had Wilfred Nancy. They had some success. Had Thierry Henry up there managing. They brought in Didier Drogba. And if you're going back a bit, if anybody remembers Ignacio Piatti, what a player he was. Piatti was, chef's kiss. He was awesome up there. Tremendous player. I mean, they've had runs, the Champions Cup there, Champions League at the time it was called. They've had some, remember they brought in a couple of really, really solid players like Marco Di Vaio, the Italian scorer and everything. So they've had those moments, but it's almost as though the organization kind of pulled back, if you will.
Yeah.
In a sense. And
got to have some pieces to work with if you're the coach, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's what I mean. Now, again, there's always blame to go around, right? When you're 4-1 or whatever, however you want to look at it, 4 losses, 1 draw, you don't really have like much of an argument if your owner comes in and says you're fired.
Yeah.
Right. You're not like,
on there.
Wait, like you don't have, exactly. You're not like, this is an outrage. I mean, not really. I mean, you're terrible right now. You're not playing well.
Yeah.
But here's my other question. You mentioned the fans and what they demand. Should fans actually be happy with this? Now, there's the instability factor with Montreal. Like maybe it happens too much. But isn't there some kind of part of a fan that should be like, at least the owner is like, this isn't acceptable in a sense, maybe it's not the right move. Maybe the owner's not the, going to fix it necessarily, but is it something, Mario, that fans might even look at? You don't ever want to see a guy lose his job on the human level, but
it does show that the ownership does want to win and they want to change things and they want to listen to their fans and this is not acceptable. So that's a good thing for the fans to know that the ownership is with them on
that. They're paying attention on some level. Yeah. I mean, like,
but then also you're like, okay, we got rid of the head coach, but we need some players now too. So kind of, it's kind of like, where's our players at? Okay, you're going to hire a new head coach, but where are the new players that's going to help out the new head coach?
Yeah, that's a very fair point. And you know what else too? Like recent years, again, we don't know the finances of these teams and the comings and going, but they've sold some big money. Like they've made some good money on sales in recent years. Ismail Kone, Georgi Mihalovic, we all know and know he's a good player when he was in Montreal. Big, like these, there's been a few. It wasn't just those two, so it's not like they haven't kind of reaped the rewards on some level of some young players. And maybe that's their mission in a sense. They do seem to do that a lot. They go for the reclamation project a little bit, or the kid who maybe hasn't gotten enough minutes. I mean, we've seen that now. He was already gone from LAFC, but like Bryce Duke is a good example. He's still only like 24 or 25 years, like he's still a not young player, but he's had a lot of experience for his age. And yet he's still,
Yeah.
that's the kind of guy that they want to bring in. Caden Clark goes to Montreal, you're not spending a fortune to get these type of players, but maybe they turn into some, and that's a cool thing to do. The problem becomes you also need the automatic player, if you will. Now, I know there's no automatic, but you know what I mean. If you're spending on designated players, most of the time they work in MLS, right? To some level.
Yeah.
Like
you got to have a difference maker in there.
Exactly. I mean, or a couple. Frankly,
a couple.
Now Vrioni, they brought in, he is a designated player, but they didn't like go out and pay a $10 million transfer. You know what I mean? Like they brought him in as a designated player, but he was kind of a reclamation project off of New England. And there was a little bit of struggle there. If he's a good player, but maybe it wasn't a perfect fit. So it's not like they went out and, here's a $15 million striker. Let's go, So yeah, they have him as a designated player, but it's not the same as if you were, we love this dude and we're going to have to go pay big money for him kind of thing. It's still almost a reclamation or a kind of a, let's see what we can get out of him kind of designated player in a weird way. So I thought it was worthy of the conversation, Mario, because people do, look at MLS without the pro rel and be like, oh, there's nothing on the line. Well, owners are paying attention. And he's not going to be
on the line.
Yeah, he's not going to be the last the manager to get fired this season. Like we don't know who, but it does happen. And sometimes you wait till the end of the season, and a lot of times you don't, anymore. Like people are getting fired after rough starts, and this is only 5 games in. So, there's no guarantees, certainly. So that's interesting. Mario, let's take a look at the games that we love. I want to ask you about these. And the first one we picked, boy, this is going to be a real clash in the East. I mean, these teams are Nashville, who I wasn't expecting a ton out of, but is playing really well. They're off to their best start ever, which surprised me, even though it is a good start. Don't get me wrong. They're on, I think, 10 points from 5 matches, but best start ever for that club versus FC Cincinnati, Mario. This is an intriguing game in the East, no doubt.
Yeah, Nashville is coming off a 3-0 win over Montreal. And, you can take that for what it's worth because Montreal
got a team
is
fired, got a manager fired. Yeah.
But that's 3 wins in a row for Nashville, which adds up quickly. We know how quickly those 3 points can add up if you times it by 3. Yeah. But they're going up against Cincinnati, and one player that I can't get enough of is Evander. We talk about those difference makers. Cincinnati's new star, Evander, he's a difference maker. He's just a joy for me to watch. I love to watch him every single weekend on Apple TV. Anytime Cincinnati's playing, I'm watching that game. And that duo of Evander and Arellano is just deadly for me. It's just fun to watch. He had 2 goals. Evander had 2 goals over the weekend against Atlanta United, and they're a good team. So that was a tough draw for Cincinnati. They should have won that match, but it was an own goal there for Cincinnati that ended up in a 2-2 draw. But Cincinnati, they're in 10th place right now, and they're in the Eastern Conference, but they're gonna be towards the top. In my opinion, when it comes to playoff time, they're gonna be right there. They're gonna be ready to go come playoff time. It's a very, very good match here, Cincinnati and Nashville this weekend.
I agree. The thing that's kind of intriguing for me about it is Cincinnati's still winless on the road, 2 losses. You don't get a result here. It's a tough start, really, if they're out of the playoff spots. I mean, there's so many teams that make the playoffs. Yeah. All of a sudden you're looking at like 3 losses from your first, that's not Cincinnati that we know. And so it's kind of intriguing. And you're running against a team that's red hot to do it. That's the tough part for FC Cincinnati. This next match, Mario, intrigues me in the West, which is obviously important for LAFC. Minnesota United hosting RSL. And it's one of those games where you could start to see a little separation between the 2 teams. In other words, RSL, it's very early again, but they're 2 points back of Minnesota in the standings. Nothing crazy. But if Minnesota wins this, all of a sudden you're 5 points back, and Minnesota's on 11 points and off to a really good start, And RSL's maybe languishing with a 4th loss to start the season. That's what intrigues me about this one. RSL's no slouch. They can go on the road. They could get a result here, and Minnesota's not, they've been prone to drop points at home occasionally too. They're not the greatest home team at times. But I think it's a game that Minnesota really has to feel like, let's go take this, man. This is 3 points for the taking, and we could be off to a really flying start this season.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a shocker for me how good Minnesota has gotten off to on this start here in 2025. And really, it's also a shocker for me how RSL is not really playing as well as I thought they'd be playing. So it's really an interesting matchup here between these two clubs here. You're right.
And the final one is a Canadian derby, which derby I use. I mean, it's always a Canadian derby, but they're two teams that are so far apart. Toronto versus Vancouver, obviously even in different conferences. So I don't know how much of a real. I mean, they battle for the Canadian Championship a lot, which of course has a Champions Cup spot on the line. So there is a rivalry there. Don't get me wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But what I'm intrigued about is Vancouver. Can they recover from the game where they lose with all the players missing? Right? They were off to a perfect start. Take it on the chin with all the guys missing for the international break and some injuries against a Toronto team that's just like a wounded animal. They're just struggling. But then maybe your crowd can get a little fired up against another Canadian team who's playing well, like that you're battling in Canadian championship stuff all the time. You need a win desperately, Mario. They're getting Insigne back. I mean, he's played now a little bit, even though it hasn't really helped. I think this is a very intriguing match for me to watch. Again, wouldn't think there's much on it, but I don't know. This could be really interesting.
Yeah, Vancouver, they did take that 3-1 loss at home, which really hurt when they were flying, but like you said, they were missing some players, and but they're still in first place. They're still right there at the top of the West. They have a very favorable matchup right here against Toronto, who is just struggling just as bad as Montreal. I mean, Toronto's got 4 losses and a draw so far this year. That's not good for Toronto. Toronto's going to be at home, though, so they're hoping to get that push from their fan base, from their supporters, trying to push them through this match. But I think Vancouver's going to bounce back on this one, I think.
Well, think about it, too. If that does happen, as Mario said, if they bounce back, 15 points you're on from 6 matches.
Yeah.
I mean, depending on how the results go toward the bottom of the playoff kind of line, if you will, you could be 8 or 9 points above the playoff line already. Like, that's amazing.
Amazing, yeah.
For a team. Yes, of course, if you start off this hot, you're maybe thinking about bigger things than just making the playoffs. I get that. But this is still a Vancouver team that, we had some real question marks coming into the season about. All of a sudden, like, you're looking up with a start like this, and inevitably teams, they'll hit the skids a little bit throughout this, but you built yourself a beautiful cushion already.
Yeah.
If you can you'll just beat this bad team. But it's a lot of pressure that way. You're on the road, hostile. The Canadians the teams don't like each other that way, and the fan base. So, yeah, very intriguing. It's like you should win. And in theory, you could really build something here off of this with a 15 points potentially. But if you slip up, man, that's going to be just a backbreaker to lose to a team like Toronto, no matter where you play them, who hasn't, they've only got 1 point from 5. Of course, they're struggling mightily. This would be big. This is just going to be an intriguing
game. On the other
game.
hand, Toronto, if they lose this match, we might be looking at their coach and seeing
Robin
what's going
Fraser,
on there.
Yeah, it's a good question. Robin Fraser, he has such a love affair with Toronto and vice versa, I think. Like, I think he'll have enough, leeway here, but it is, you lose this one to a Canadian rival.
And depending on how you lose it as well.
That's
the attitude
true.
is not there from the players. If,
it's a very good point.
If it's a competitive match, then, he might be safe, but that's a lot of losses, and that's a lot of struggling this year so far for Toronto.
I mean, the problem with Toronto is, at least they're scoring a little bit, but they're giving up 12 goals. They're
that
just
helps,
getting, they're getting run over in terms of their defense. But scoring does help a little, right? Like, you're not losing 4-0 every game. Yeah, you're giving up a lot of goals, but you are kind of battling and stuff. So, and look, I've said it for so long. Whatever you feel about Insigne, Federico Bernardeschi lays it all out on the line every game. He's played different positions than he's used to last. That guy is 100%, 100% of the time. And kudos to him, man. No matter how bad they might be at times, he tried to drag them himself a lot of times last season. And he is a special player, no doubt. And Insigne, multi-talented, but Bernardeschi, has won me over as a fan of him, just who he is on the pitch and whatever, and his work at, you can't take anything away from that dude, man. He's just been rock solid, incredible. I mean, I kind of think sometimes about what he'd do on other teams. Like if he was on another, not on that kind of struggling franchise.
Yeah, I agree.
Like, oof,
I
man,
agree.
that guy
That would be
he's
special.
great. He's not good. He's a great soccer player.
Yeah.
So maybe they can build on that and get going a little bit. And Robert Fraser is certainly a good manager, so we'll see what happens. Mario, great stuff. Of course, LAFC at San Diego FC, big game coming up Saturday at Snapdragon Stadium. Join us if you can't make it down there. Airtime, 7 p.m. Pacific, and that's on the ESPN LA app, right, this week?
Yes, on the ESPN LA app. Yep.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
We're not on 710 ESPN this weekend. Is that correct? Okay.
Correct.
So join us on the ESPN LA app. By the way, super easy app to use. Download it. Boom. You hit a button. You hit a couple of things. Boom. You're already listening. I mean, it's awesome app. So very easy to use. And join us there. Mario, take us out of here, brother. Great show as usual. Episode 48 in the books.
Yeah, looking forward to this weekend, Dave. Saturday in San Diego. It's so-called, a rivalry game. We'll see if it pans out that way or if it starts out the rivalry in the right way. But like we talked about earlier, both teams got to bring it on the pitch. It's not just the hype of being, SoCal, two SoCal teams going at it. They both got to bring it. Can't be no lopsided games, every single time. Like, there's a lot of Padre fans that think that, Dodgers are our rival, and Dodger fans are just like, what do you mean? Like, 'cause what are you talking about? But it's got to be both ways. So we look forward to getting this rivalry started off on the right foot. So yeah, join us this Saturday right here on ESPN LA on the ESPN LA app, starting at 7 p.m. for the pregame show from Snapdragon Stadium. We'll catch you on the next episode of LAFC Plus. That's Dave Denholm. I'm Mario Ruiz. Peace.